The world's and we all know it. Let's talk about it.
Oh, hi. Thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
Hello. I do apologize for the lighting. Hopefully in the future it doesn't look this way. It's also totally obvious I'm not using this mic. Oh well. I don't know what you guys have been up to recently, but I've been in quite a few different online spheres. A lot of those being the gaming community, a lot of them being me going back to nostalgic games that I used to love growing up. And I've come to realize that those games and those communities are not the same. When I was younger, it used to be a lot different. And the way that we used to do things used to be a lot different. Now that's not to say that they were better or worse necessarily, but there were some differences. Let's get into it. Let's put my little glasses on. I kind of feel like the glasses tie this look together. Let's see. How gaming is causing children to have gambling addictions and or money issues. I'm about to turn this off because I need to film. I guess I gotta wait. Oh, okay. All right, to start off with how these games were different. I'm not sure if maybe I just wasn't in these parts of the internet when I was younger. If they were around when I was younger, then oh. Regardless, it's still a conversation that needs to be had. Something we know that happens in streaming and become very popularized in streaming actually. But not only streaming, gaming in general is gambling. Gambling did not used to be huge whenever I was younger, at least not on the gaming sphere or not in the games I would play. Now, like I said, I've been going through a nostalgia reboot and I've been going and looking back at old games I used to play. One of those websites being Roblox. We all know the famed Roblox and we all know the famed stories about Roblox. There's many stories about Roblox. And I'm sure I'll make plenty other videos talking about those stories. Maybe even my own. Without getting too into detail about the other parts of Roblox, we are talking about the gambling problem within Roblox and its community. So, like I was saying, gambling has become very popularized with the streaming community, and that did kind of carry out into the gaming community because a lot of streams that were popular were those weird ones where they would like cycle through the boxes for guns.
I discovered they're actually called loot boxes, but sadly I could not find any footage of them, so here some other game.
I don't know. Whether it was Siege and whether it was CSGO or some other game, I really don't know. I wasn't really in those communities, specifically those ones. I could talk about that for days. Why am I leaning into that? Like, so those weird roulette style games became very popular when it came to streaming, and little do a lot of people know, those streamers were paid, whether it be with free spins or they were paid with actual money, or streamers specifically had rigged games or rigged spins, whatever you would call it. For safety, we're gonna say allegedly here. Allegedly. Oh, these streamers worked with these companies in one way or another, and many people watching did not know that, and many people watching were already going through their own spirals because do I have to remind everybody what big global issue was happening in 2020? So this is whenever these streams became very popular, and I'm going to assume because sometime around here, I was somehow getting out of the gaming community. I had ditched, I was living my life, I was doing other things, and recently I've been coming back. So I'm not sure specifically when those changes happened. I do know that it happened somewhere in here though. Now, to be fair, I didn't play Roblox for a very long time, so it's possible that these things were happening in here before and I just didn't know. And that would be my own. Sorry for misinforming if that is the case here, but from what I know, these streams became very popular first, and then it started going into other games and other gaming communities. Not only that, but it started getting catered towards children, which me personally, I got a problem with that. You don't have to be all save the children or love kids or whatever to see the problem behind young, very vulnerable, naive minds being put into a space where gambling is normalized, or where just spending a lot of money and not caring about the consequences is normalized. I don't know if we need to be reminded what kind of economy we're in. I'm pretty sure that's pretty global for the majority as well. Not only that, but like, even just kids content, oh, that could be its own thing. It used to be, I mean, yes, I'm not acting like there wasn't weird stuff when I was younger. There absolutely was, and there absolutely still is, and there absolutely was from before me and other people born in 2003. I'm not gonna act like that's not a thing. I am absolutely aware of that. I am here to criticize this specific one in this video though, and I'm sure there will be so many more videos of me criticizing other things because man, I've become a critic. I also don't know if it needs to be reminded that gambling is catered to people that are 21 and older, not 18, 21. And I'll double check that. If I'm wrong, I will correct myself in post, but this is catered to people that are 21 and older. Gambling is an adult, and I mean adult hobby. And it's not an adult hobby that many people even smile and like to gander their eyes upon. Most people actually bat their eyes and frown upon it. It's very similar to being in your 30s and still being a partier, or somebody that's in their mid-20s and talking. No, I can't. I can't include that. I can't include that. That's no. It's very on par with the abnormal, which is somehow becoming normalized, and I don't know if this is the entirety of Roblox, but I do know a few different communities that I have personally joined, and yes, I do enjoy these communities and games. I'm not going to act like I don't, but I am an adult, and I understand the consequences, and I understand, hey, like, maybe I shouldn't spend $50 for a ghost monkey on a game. A ghost monkey that I probably won't even equip past this event. I still did that, but I didn't say I was the smartest adult. But I do understand the consequences, at least more than many children. And I'm not acting like kids are dumb. I know that there are plenty of kids that can grasp at least a little bit that money wasn't some expendable thing, at least not an easily expendable thing, because there is a lot that goes with it for a lot of people, and it's a very small percent that doesn't have to deal with those consequences. I'm gonna have to turn this light off, I think. That kind of helped a little bit, okay. But I hate to say, I am about to criticize a few games that if you watch my gaming channel, you've seen me play. Yeah, I'm gonna criticize them today because there are features in those games that I don't believe are the best for children. And I am in no way the most fit to speak on the perfect way to raise a child, obviously. And I'm not here to criticize any parents that allow their kids to play these games or whatever. I'm here to criticize the games themselves because these companies know better. And these companies know how addictive these habits that they're forming in these children at an early age can be and how profitable it is, and that is what they're paying attention to rather than the actual health of their brains and just futures. Again, it's not every game. Hello Kitty Cafe, I adore this game. I'm not here to criticize this game for any feature other than this, and yes, I do understand the the good points of it. I also understand the downfalls of it. One of these downfalls being the gacha ticks and the gacha machines. Gacha ticks are this little expendable item on the game where it's not the easiest item to get a hold of, but you do get them here and there. And there's also like this free will that you do every day that does give you some, and then certain daily tasks and stuff. So it's not like they're impossible to get. They actually made them way easier to get than a lot of different games that I've seen. But I need water. So gacha ticks are used to go to gacha machines, and if you don't know what a gacha machine is, or a gacha toy, or a gacha in general is, I'll just throw up a few different pictures and examples because there are real life machines. They're very popular over in Japan, I'm pretty sure, and they have been here in the US in bigger cities and just in some arcades, but they're pretty much like mystery machines where you have these little shells that you can't see through, they're opaque, and inside of them you get some mystery toy. A lot of online games and communities have learned how to benefit from these by having the consumer have some sort of gambling attachment to it. It's very interesting. So let me explain. So though mystery boxes and mystery toys and surprises on their own, they can be questionable and not everybody loves them and some people adore them and some people just don't have any feelings at all. These do fall into that kind of category. There's so many mixed feelings on just mystery surprises in general. Gotchas are a very similar thing and they offer the same elements of surprise and shock factor and adrenaline in general. And obviously, whenever you are looking to collect a certain type of item, or if you look at the mystery thing and they happen to have one of those little paper things that shows the characters or whatever, right? And you know what you may or may not have possibly hiding in there, you're going to be betting on certain items and you're going to be wanting certain items more than others, right? That's just kind of human nature. And of course, you know, do what you want with your money. I'm not here to criticize people doing what they want with their money. I am definitely not one to criticize, well, like I said, I am here to criticize the companies, specifically because they're targeting children. The gacha machines on Hello Kitty Cafe, for example, you can see a list of the items that you could possibly get, and then they have ones for certain characters or some popular ones in the community that people often favor. You can go to the gacha machine, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the item that you want. It means you have a possibility of getting the item that you want. With that being said, you can get gacha ticks for free. You don't have to spend money to get gacha ticks, but you do run out of them very quickly, no matter what. Like, eventually you're gonna run out. And then it's like, oh no, I really wanted more of that. I really wanted to get this specific item. I really, you know, whatever it be, right? I'm not gonna keep giving multiple examples. I think you get the gist. They allow the possible option of buying gacha ticks. And of course, do what you want with your money. But a lot of people on Roblox or that are playing this game are kids that may or may not have their parents' credit card attached, and their parent may or may not know that their kid is doing this. This is very similar to a lot of criticisms that you'll hear about TikTok lives and how all the people that donate through there, that's another story. But this one we know is very widely children. It's Roblox. And I'm not gonna act like there aren't adults on there. Hello. But we do know that Roblox is definitely catered towards children. Therefore, there are children on the platform. And for games to be very expense-based and all this other stuff, when it's catered to children, kind of questionable. We're gonna stop going at the gacha ticks because, like I said, this is in a lot of different games. Just this like, hey, do you want to get a random item? Here you go. Now, one that I did recently discover that doesn't do the randomization, but it does let you have the factor of going into like a claw machine type thing and getting an item, is this Squishmallow game. Surprisingly, they don't factor into that. I actually kind of enjoy the Squishmallow game because it doesn't really cause like addiction, or it doesn't outwardly. Because I'm evaluating this in a very psychological perspective, that is the framework of what I'm looking at this in. And from that perspective, I don't really see many signs of them attempting to manipulate like children to want to spend a lot of money. Definitely not more than other games on there. And that leads me into Adopt Me. Now, for a long while, I actually avoided Adopt Me because the name, the pictures, and the vibe of it all, first of all, I didn't realize you could adopt pets. I actually had a kid in my family explain it to me because we were playing Roblox together and I was like, what is this game? Exactly. And they let me know, like, you know, you can adopt pets and whatever in it. And I was like, oh, actually, that kind of sounds up my alley. But the overall vibe, just, it gets very creepy. Mostly due to, like, I don't know, me personally, I've never been a big, like, let me role play it and pretend to adopt a baby or have a family and all of that. I just never did that growing up. So maybe that's just me. I never understood wanting to do that. I just kind of find those a little bit weird, mostly because I know that Roblox has a mixture of adults, teens, and children. There's a big variety of people on there, and I guess that just leads me to be like, towards that kind of game. And similar ones in that category would be like Brookhaven, Berry Avenue, I think is the name of that one, and quite a few others, which, oh my gosh, there's one that I want to make a whole video on that I haven't even played, but the pictures alone, are you kidding me? Like, how is that on here? And how is that not suggestive? and taken down for being obviously anyway.
Okay, so actually I completely left out this entire other game that I've found, which used to be behind a paywall, but now it's free even though it's still a beta, and the maturity level is still the same. That makes no sense to me. Now, I've never played it, maybe it's different on the inside. Regardless, that doesn't make the advertising okay, especially on a kid's platform.
But we're talking about Adopt Me right now. They like your money on that game. And I didn't realize how corrupt some of these games and gaming companies had become until I went on to Adopt Me and I saw, and I do like the game. That's not me saying that the game isn't fun. I do like the game. It is the expenses behind the game. To have a pet be like 300 Robux, I already was like, okay, that's expensive. 600, whoa there, partner. Let alone 1,000. There are so many that are 1,000. Like almost every event has one that's 1,000 Robux. Like that's crazy. And I understand, like, as a collector, I am a collector on games. I love collecting, okay? I understand wanting to collect and sitting there and seeing the ridiculous prices they are putting these things at. As a collector, I'm like, listen, that isn't worth it. Like, I'm sad that I've missed out on some opportunities. There's some really cool ones that I've missed out on, but I'm sorry. That isn't worth it. It's kind of crazy. And there's some houses, cars, just, it's very overpriced in my opinion. And maybe that's just me. Maybe I just don't fit their 1% that they're trying to go for. Or maybe, you know, I'm wrong and I'm gonna hear about it in the comments. You know, feel free to share your opinion. I completely understand that there's probably going to be people that disagree with me, or just because I'm attacking a game or a community or something that they are in, they won't be able to hear the gray area of the situation. Rather, it's only black and white. And I understand the black and white thinking of the internet, I do. But there is a lot of gray area that we need to cover, because leaving it gray isn't helping anybody. And neither is only looking at things from a black and white perspective. I really don't think that's helping anybody. Sometimes we do need to understand that there is either hidden stuff or that not everything's black and white, and sometimes it's gray and funky and wonky. That's why I'm touching on some aspects of this community and the gaming community in general that people may not be aware of, especially not parents that aren't personally gaming themselves, but rather they're just letting their kids play the games, you know? So Adopt Me, very expensively overpriced. So we're gonna wrap her up. Then we get into the roleplay games, which I find roleplay games a little bit and odd, and that is my own personal feeling and belief. I just know that a lot of those like Roblox and all that stuff take place in those kinds of communities as it is, which I don't find very shocking. And it's possible that I just have some trauma, and that's why I'm not shocked by it, because yes, I've run into very odd people in those games, and as an adult that has gone into those games, I've just had weird people just walk up and say some strange things to me, whether it be through the voice chat or whether it be over text. A lot of the time they have to frame it in certain ways so that it doesn't get censored and I don't say, sorry, I don't speak hashtag. There are some very weird people online. And I do think that that is something that parents do need to keep in mind, no matter what game your kid is playing. You might think a game is safe, but just because that game might seem safe doesn't mean it necessarily is. And that is not the game's fault necessarily. It's not the parents' fault. It's definitely not the kid's fault. It is just the way that people like that think. People with odd extremities, people like that specifically, those people, it's them to blame, because they think in very, very odd ways, and ways that you just wouldn't think about more often than not. And that's why I think it's very important to talk about these things online so that other people can be educated on it, especially if they just aren't aware. I will say, if you're a parent, what I would personally say to watch out for is any game that allows a kid to talk to other people playing the game online. Just be careful, because there are some interesting people out there, even towards adults, let alone the children. let alone. So now we're gonna talk about how a lot of games and kids games have been causing money issues and have become money pits. So I do have a personal experience that I can share about this. Somebody in my family has a kid, obviously. That kid likes to play online games, and I can't blame him. I'm also somebody else who loves to play online games. As a kid, you run across a lot. I can definitely speak for that. I was a kid who was on the internet that didn't really have much, like, my mom wasn't really aware of the importance of internet safety and just how weird and deep the internet goes. So I didn't grow up with much internet safety, and I have seen things. There's a lot of weird games that get put on any platform. That could be iOS, that could be Android, that could be computer, that could be console, it could be anything. There's a lot of very odd games that get released onto platforms that really just shouldn't be there, and Roblox is definitely one that just, you're able to get on that game and make a game yourself. Like, you can just make it. It's really not that hard. I've even played around with Roblox Studio. It's not that hard. You can make games, you can make clothing items, you know, you can make so much on that game just as somebody that has an account. So not only is there that factor with Roblox, there's just so many people that are doing it. So it's already hard for Roblox as a company to keep track of all of these things and people. I'm not going to downplay that. I will downplay the fact that they act like they do things about it when they really don't. That isn't me talking. There's evidence all over the place on the internet that they just don't. So again, we're gonna go back to the story I was trying to say here. Personal experience. Okay, so this kid likes to play online games, and they recently found some game on their phone that is a money pit, and I didn't know this was possible to find a game that this bad, because when I was a kid, the type of games that I'm finding on Roblox and such are the kind of games that I was like, oh, that's a money pit. No. This game was horrible. Now, if I find the game and I remember the name of it or whatever, I will put it up here. I might even ask them for the information for it. It's a horse game. It's a horse game that you play with your horses and stuff, and you have to pay to jump. To jump. As if that's not something that horses just do more often than not. You have to pay to jump. You have to pay to fly, which I guess I understand that. I don't know how much it costed for these things, by the way. But yeah, you had to pay to be able to do most anything in the game. And I'm sure that they told me so many more things that you had to pay for. I was taken back by the fact that you had to even pay to jump. Parents in this situation were talking to me because they know that I also play online games. And they were asking me, you know, like, what do I think about this? Well, I think it's insane. I did suggest a different game that I think would be a better option for the kind of thing that this kid was trying to play. Just the fact that there are games out there, and there's no, I couldn't even tell you how many there are. There's so many that are money pits, and you could even just say straight up scams at this point. Now listen, I understand that these companies have people that are working under them, and they have to pay these people, and these companies have to pay themselves in order to keep themselves running. I understand that they have responsibilities and needs to be met. I'm not downplaying that factor. I just wish that they wouldn't cater them to kids, and I wish that they wouldn't make these kinds of games. Specifically that last one I talked about. I really hope I find it, because if I even include that part of this video, I'm going to need it. Just to show how ridiculous it is, because without showing you how terrible the graphics were and the gameplay in general, and just how it just wasn't worth it. It just wasn't worth it. So yes, many of these games have become money pits, and one of the OG money pits that I'm sure a lot of people have heard so much about is like D2. I know a lot of people that have complained about D2, and I've heard about how they became a money pit. It was a game that people adored, and then they sold out because they wanted a lot of money, and in order to do that they started releasing a bunch of DLCs, and then they got rid of some DLCs that they released that people had already paid for, and they didn't do anything to pay them back. There's been a lot with them, allegedly, and there's been a lot with a lot of gaming companies. And that's why I'm here to criticize the ones catering them towards children and becoming money pits for children that don't know any better. Talked about money pits, money issues, gambling addictions.
So it's actually at this point that I ran out of space. So this does get cut short here, but I do believe that I picked up most, if not all, of the topics that I wanted to talk about. This is a very open-ended conversation still. Please feel free to address anything in the comments and keep this conversation flowing, because there is so much that I accidentally left out because I ran out of time, and just stuff that I probably haven't even thought about yet. So please, just do feel free to keep this conversation going. There is so much information on this that people just don't even know about, including myself, someone making a video on this. So please, you guys, just feel free to keep this conversation going, and yeah, just be safe on the internet, please.
And there's like, oh no, girl, unwind.